Okay, thanks, Paul, for covering off some of those technical considerations. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and move this forward a little bit to look at some of the more, as Paul mentioned, the softer issues that you're going to face, or the people-related challenges, which, in our view, are just as important. What we come to realise is that no software, we'd like it to, no software is going to answer all your problems, but ideally, a good thing would be for your chosen solution to actually blend into existing working practice. That's going to help a lot. The more familiar the new solution or process is, the easier the adoption is going to be by your end users, and the higher the chance of success, obviously. It's absolutely key to make a new system easy to use and intuitive. If it's not intuitive, then people aren't going to buy into it, and that is one of our key considerations. What we see all the time is the fact that if people are using Outlook calendaring already, it's going to be a solid starting point for you. If it's a familiar and comfortable environment for them to work with, you're not going to reinvent the wheel, but you're just going to enable more from the environment that they're used to working with already. You don't need to have extensive user training. In fact, a lot of clients we've got would have managed to change by doing things like drop-in sessions, basic user guides on the intranet, um, and good internal communications, obviously. We're not saying it's going to be really simple, but on the face of it, if it's simple enough to be picked up on day one by your users, with all the hard work and planning and preparation, etc., done behind the scenes, then obviously you're going to be off to a good start once your solution goes live. So, touchscreens. When you're at the beginning of planning your project, these can often be seen as a bit of a luxury item, but when you're thinking about ease of use, they can actually be a really quick win for you. We often speak with companies about touchscreens when they're trying to get better visibility of the space, provide a better corporate image, but importantly, they're also a really good tool for freeing up space. Commonly, we talk to people about touchscreens. They're finding that finding an available meeting space is difficult, or perhaps they're suffering from what we call empty meeting room syndrome. So all the meeting rooms look booked in Outlook or your booking system, but actually you walk down the corridor where the rooms are and half of them are empty. These are the kind of problems that you're facing that you might start to look towards touchscreens because we can really help with that. Um, they're often put in to coincide with something like a refurbishment or an office move. They're really visible and they're seamless because they're going to link directly back to your Office 365 or Exchange calendar. They're very easy to use and the benefits are very obvious and tangible to your users. What they'll do is they'll provide you with an instant view of the meeting room's availability. They're going to show you a schedule for the day, so they're really great for cutting out the contention of who's actually supposed to be using the room at that time. And they can also be used to book meeting rooms on the fly if you can see there's a gap in the schedule. Use of room screens we've seen this numerous times, can improve utilisation of rooms dramatically, and you can measure it quite easily. The data capture that you get from the system will allow you to actually see um, how the utilisation of the rooms has changed when you put the screens in. We think the real benefit of having touchscreens, and the touchscreens can be used to manage rooms or desks. The real benefit is the ability to check out of your room early. So if you've got a meeting booked between 12 and 1, you finish by half 12, you can check out of that room and free up the space for someone else to book via Outlook or directly at the screen. So improving the utilisation of the space. There's also, in regards to checkout, there's also a checkout option which will allow you to cancel a booking automatically if a booking isn't checked into within a predetermined timescale. So if you get a no-show, is basically what I'm trying to say. So this is a really effective approach for tackling a situation where a room's booked but the meeting's not going to take place. This seems to happen everywhere. We see it all the time. A great example of a customer who's really running with that idea is Airbus. They recently refurbished their HQ in Bristol. It's a really impressive new site, looks great, but what they have got, which is a real challenge for them, is 25% less meeting rooms than they had previously. There's still a requirement to house the same amount of meetings, but much fewer meeting rooms. So what they do is they have one of these touchscreens outside of each meeting room, and they have an auto checkout window of 15 minutes. I believe it was 5 minutes at one point, but 15-minute checkout window meaning that if you've not turned up or checked into a meeting within 15 minutes, then the meeting is cancelled, the space is freed up again to be booked at the screen or via your Outlook calendar. And they really needed that type of functionality to make this demand for meetings work in the new environment. Okay, so let's move on to another one of those key considerations that we're talking about, and this one is to think beyond the technology. So in other words, the politics you might face. Dealing with internal politics is a really common challenge we see our customers facing. You may have identified the need for a new solution. You may have even looked at solutions and narrowed down to the right option that you want, but there's still a lot of internal hurdles you're going to face. These are often political, as I say, and some people's jobs may change as a result of the changes you're making in the business. FM or reception staff may be concerned about the changes to their role. People have a bit of a fear of change, so what you really need to do is ensure the positive benefits of the change are communicated as early and as often as possible. And that directive comes from the top down as well. That really helps. Genesis Housing are one of my clients. They did a lot of work prior to making the change to flexible working with their staff, just to learn to see and buy into the benefits of the new environment they were going to be working in. They set up pilot offices, for instance, where people could test hot desking, made the office look different to what it was before and more in line with a flexible working environment, and that really helped people to buy into the changes. It's really important to have a strong steer from management, but also key here to get you buy-in from the key staff and involve them in planning and rollout to avoid any barriers you might face to adoption. We've already talked about ensuring technical background is covered with IT teams and management, and that's what Paul was talking about, but I think this goes as much for key business users as well. We've been deploying these solutions for a long time now, a number of years, and what we've been able to do over the years is adapt our approach to help organisations manage these processes as much as we possibly can. Things like planning workshops are absolutely crucial to the success of a project. This is where you can involve all your key stakeholders in designing the solution that they're going to be using and making decisions. These workshops, I go to these workshops from time to time, and it can be a very cathartic process. You can make a lot of decisions about how you manage rooms and resources that you may not have even thought about. So design services is something which is a key part of this. This helps create the visuals that you might have to go with touchscreens, especially things like wayfinding information, floor plans to help staff and visitors with navigating around the building. And we have more of a collaboration with you have more of a collaboration with our design team to go through that process. Training. Now, we mentioned previously that this is quite easy because it's wrapped around Outlook and it's going to be pretty straightforward for users. But is your chosen vendor offering you any kind of training for key users or administrators? What makes another sort of ingredient for making a project a success is to have internal product champions, and this is where maybe you can focus on some key people to give them some background and training within the system to help your user population. Consultancy, make sure you cover what you're going to receive in regards to professional services. Don't undercut it. Is the vendor going to work with you from planning through to implementation and beyond that to make sure the system's bedding in, or are they going to expect you to, are they going to cut you loose and expect you to learn how to use the system on your own? It's crucial you get the knowledge transfer in the early stages. So you don't want to have to go back for paid consultancy every time you want to make a change to the system. Obviously, you want to be able to make the changes yourself with some support from your vendor where you need it. So, supporting business change, and again, I'm flagging up with here where there's a key consideration. Your business is going to change; it's inevitable. Organisations are always looking to streamline the way they work and be more efficient, move with the times, etc. So your chosen solution, whatever it is going to need to be flexible to fit and support future working initiatives. You might not even know what these initiatives are yet, but you may look to add functionality over time. You might have to add different sites coming into this. You might look to book different types of resource. I've got a client I've been talking to recently who are looking to implement pull bikes, so people can cycle around the local area or cycle into work in the morning. And it's really good idea, but these are the kind of things that you might be looking at in the future. You need to be careful not to be too tied in to proprietary systems, things like touchscreens, which kind of almost force you to get the next model of touchscreen from them, and the software and hardware upgrades are all tied into each other. When it comes to replace things like touchscreens, we can help you with this and make sure you've got the flexibility to change without impacting the underlying system. There are going to be changes to the way you might want to work. We see many companies with new ways of working and directives as part of their business plan. This is quite often when people come to speak to us in the first place. Genesis Housing, I mentioned them earlier. They're a really good example. We implemented a new process for booking meeting rooms and desks for them that was in line with their very rigorous 2-year change program that they had to deliver. This was going to involve large-scale movement of staff into new workplaces, it was going to mean a big reduction in office footprint. This led to flexible working for pretty much everybody. And just to top it off, around the same time they decided to migrate to Office 365, which gave them a pretty hectic schedule of changes. We've got a case study for that project. It's worth having a look at, as they did achieve the goals. It was an interesting story. There's various ups and downs in it, but then they now have a much more streamlined estate. They've got much more flexibility for employees. They found that it's led to loads more opportunities for things like collaborative working, and I suppose the key thing is it's led to huge year-on-year cost savings in several areas. Right, what we're going to do now is round all of this up. What you've done is you've listened to Paul and I talk about various technical and non-technical considerations for planning out your own project, to giving you a plan for success. So we've mentioned that we would put it into 5 key considerations, and here they are. Number 1 would be build on your existing infrastructure. Make it easy on yourself. Extend the process you're already using rather than, as we put it before, reinventing the wheel. Number 2 would be ensure that your solution is going to be scalable. You need this for consistency across the whole business. Number 3, and a really important one, is good user experience. This is critical to get people to adopt the new system and buy into the change. Number 4, think beyond the technology. People and processes are just as key as the technical solution that you're implementing. And number 5 would be flexibility and future-proofing. Ensure that the solution you're choosing is going to be in it for the long haul and will be able to change as your business changes. So thank you for listening. I'm going to pass back across to Emma now. Happy to speak to anyone who wants to talk to us after the webinar. Emma will close things off nicely, hopefully. And yeah, thank you for listening.